I'm always an advocate for a layer-based, non-destructive workflow in Photoshop, but that's especially important when working on older images where we don't have a whole lot of information to work with in many cases, and more than likely there will be significant work done in order to improve the appearance of the photo. You can see with this photo, for example, I have some blemishes that I would like to clean up, and it could use a little bit better contrast, and it also needs to be cropped to eliminate this frame around the edge. And for all of those adjustments, I want to try to work non-destructively, and that generally means using layers within Photoshop. Those can be image layers that contain pixels, much like the background image layer that is the basis of this entire image, and it can also mean adjustment layers, which essentially are instructions for how Photoshop should adjust the appearance of the image. And in both cases, we're able to work non-destructively, in other words, not touching the background image layer. Working with layers also means that we're going to maintain flexibility in terms of being able to go back and refine our adjustments. Let's take a look at a couple of quick examples. I'll go ahead and add a new empty image layer. I'm going to rename this layer Cleanup, and then I'll choose the Spot Healing Brush tool, and I can work directly on the image, but all of the cleanup work that I'm applying, all of the blemishes that I'm removing here, are being removed on a separate layer. So I can go back at any time and correct that work. For example, maybe cleaning up the blemish along the edge here, and perhaps working on some of these other spots. Now, in this case, I'm just doing some quick work so that you can see an obvious change in the image. I'm not taking the time to do a very good job here, but by turning off the cleanup layer, you can see the original, and then you can see the result of this cleanup when I turn the visibility for that cleanup layer on. And that's accomplished just by clicking on the eye icon to the left of the thumbnail for the cleanup layer. If I turn off the background image layer, you'll get a much better sense of exactly what I've been doing here. I've been taking pixels from other areas of the image and covering up the blemishes. So you can see that I have a variety of what we'll call clean pixels, which are covering up the blemishes on the underlying background image layer. But if I later decide that some of this work was less than ideal, I can go back to my cleanup layer, I can delete it altogether, I can erase some of the pixels off that cleanup layer, or do a variety of other things in order to improve the photo. Let's take a look at adjustment layers as well. I'll go ahead and add a curves adjustment in this case, and then I'll scroll down on the properties panel so I can see my curve, and I'll just apply a basic curve adjustment here. Again, not trying to get the image to look perfect, but rather just giving you a sense of the options that are available. And because I'm using an adjustment layer, you'll notice that the curves adjustment is separate from the background image layer. So at any time, I can return to that curves adjustment in order to apply a change. So I can go back to my cleanup layer and perhaps remove some of the corrections there, or go back to my curves adjustment layer and apply some refinements to my curves adjustment. The point is that by working with layers, I'm separating all of my work from the original so that I'm not harming that background image layer, and I also retain maximum flexibility.